Today, President Trump announced his plan for peace in the Middle East. Now, let's go over what's going on the ground so you understand the ramifications of everything. Hamas is almost completely destroyed. However, they are winning the PR war. If you ask anybody in Israel, if you ask most Jews who support Israel and love America, they're going to say, we don't care about the PR war. We want Hamas destroyed. But it is a factor. It is definitely a factor. You also have another problem in Israel. You have a problem with you've lost close to 1,000 soldiers, if not more than 1,000 soldiers at this point, to get back how many hostages? In Israel, people are already saying, at what point do we just say, we're not sure we're getting those hostages back? You have another faction in Israel that says, we want those hostages back no matter what, even if it means making peace with Hamas. You have another faction that says, no deals with Hamas as much as we want our loved ones back. We don't want anybody else's loved ones dying because Hamas is emboldened and stays in power and decides to do this again. You also have the woke right starting to say we shouldn't support this anymore. You have the Democrats saying we shouldn't support Israel anymore. So you've got problems with Israel's biggest ally, which is America. Also, people are tired of talking about it. People are tired of trying to ask, what does a war thousands of miles away have to do with us here in America? It's been 2 years. You have another problem where people don't want to show up for their military service in Israel, and it's mandatory. If you're an Israeli citizen, you have to show up for service. Now, it's not a huge problem, but it is a problem where people are saying, why am I going to fight in this? Because the second we win something, we turn around to give it back for the next ceasefire, then we got to go clear the same buildings. We got to go clear the same fake hospitals. We got to do that time and time again. Why are we doing this? Look at all that, put that all together. Those are the facts on the ground. It is in everybody's best interest that this thing come to an end soon. However, there's a few givens. Hamas cannot be in charge of the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Authority cannot be trusted. And yet the Arab world is always saying, well, if you don't give them a Palestinian state, we're just not on board with any of this. The brilliance of the Abraham Accords by President Trump was he said, forget the Palestinian question. We're going to make peace with everybody else, and the Palestinian issue will take care of itself. And that was the thinking of the time. And actually, it was working perfectly fine until Joe Biden came along and started refunding the Palestinian Authority so they could spend money on terror attacks. The Palestinian Authority is paying the people's families who carried out October 7th. That should tell you everything you need to know about the Palestinian Authority. So, right now, President Trump proposed a deal today. Now, I'm not hot on a lot of this deal, but the points of the deal don't matter. What matters is this. What matters is that if Hamas does not agree to the deal, even though there are concessions to Hamas in this deal, then Israel gets carte blanche to finish the job as long as President Trump is still president of the United States. How long is that going to take is a question when you have to do urban warfare and go door to door. So what exactly is in this deal? 1, Gaza will be de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Okay, how do you do that? Took a long time to denazify Germany. Took decades to do that. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. Okay, that was done when Gaza was given to the Palestinians in 2005, and they promptly raided everything, tore down all the greenhouses, agriculture, everything else. And what they did was they said, okay, we're going to use all the money for terror. If both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended. Battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete stage withdrawal. Okay, but that still leaves Hamas around. And what if you have to go back in? You're clearing the same places again. Why would you trust them now? Once all the hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners, a.k.a. terrorists, plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, a.k.a. terrorists, including women and children detained in that context, a.k.a. terrorists. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 dead Gazans, a.k.a. terrorists. Not big on that part. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Definitely not big on that part. But you know what this is? This is the guy in Syria. The guy who's now leading Syria was an al-Qaeda terrorist who is still trying to wipe out the Druze and Christian population in Syria. And we're treating him like he's not a terrorist anymore. What this is trying to do is the myth of the good German soldier. What happened was after World War II, how can you send Nazis back to their families and say they served with honor, they were just following orders? Well, that's what they did. There were a lot of Nazis out there who didn't escape, who just went back to their families and did some horrible, horrible things. This is trying to take a page out of that book, and I'm not sure I'm hot on this. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Well, they've been running the war from Qatar this whole time. Why do you think they're going to do what you want them to do when they're out there and not try to start Hamas again from somewhere else? I don't like this at all. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. Okay. Entry of distribution aid will proceed without interference. Okay, whatever. Even though they think the United Nations and the Red Crescent can do it, they were the ones providing weapons to them to begin with. They were the ones, the United Nations was letting them use the schools as missile launch locations. Gaza will be governed by the temporary transitional government of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee. No! Why? The Palestinians are Hamas. They voted for Hamas. They support Hamas. They're the ones holding hostages in their apartments. No! This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians, international experts. Really, how'd those international experts do last time? A new transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald J. Trump. That's the only part of this I like, with other members of head of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Meh. Okay. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created. Great. We've tried this before. A special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated. No one will be forced to leave Gaza. Those who wish to leave will be free to do so. Okay. We'll keep going down the rest of this, but basically you get the gist. Now, why are they doing all these things I disagree with? Why is President Trump doing all these things I disagree with? Because this is exactly what the Arab world wants. And it's exactly what he did with the Abraham Accords, where he said, okay, we're going to try this. And they offered up a deal that I went ballistic over. I went absolutely ballistic. I said, how can you offer the Palestinians 90% of what they want? Because President Trump and Jared Kushner knew they would reject it. And when they rejected it, he was able to go to the Arab countries and go, guys, we tried. We tried. What do you want us to do now? If Hamas rejects this deal, they are insane because it's the best one they're ever gonna get. But at the end of the day, you're still negotiating with terrorists. And there's always going to be another Hamas. After the PLO, there was the Palestinian Authority. There was Hamas. There was Palestinian Islamic Jihad. You name it. There's always someone else, and someone else will be emboldened by this to do another October 7th or something worse. We never conceived of something as horrible as October 7th, and look what happened. So now you want to do this again? I hope that President Trump is playing 4D chess. I hope that he is looking at this and saying Hamas is going to reject it because Hamas rejects it every single time. But now there's pressure from the Arab world on Hamas to accept the deal. And even when Hamas has accepted the deal, in the past they have always reneged or failed to live up to their commitments. Otherwise, the war would have been over. This war would have been over if they had held to the ceasefire on October 6th and not actually started the war. This war could have ended on October 8th if Hamas had returned the hostages and surrendered. Israel, if they really wanted to commit genocide, could have carpet-bombed the Gaza Strip and this war could have been over on October 8th. All these things are true. My question to you is, the listener, what do you think? Do you think this is 4D chess? Do you think you just want the war over with because you've had enough of it? I want to know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Here's what the president said earlier today when he announced the deal.
So this is a big, big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. We're going to, at least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East.
I love that he called them the Avraham Accords. Avraham is Hebrew for Abraham. So it's kind of funny whether that was done on purpose or by accident. I think he's been spending a lot of time with his Jewish family members. I do love that he called them the Avraham Accords because that's kind of what they are in Israel. But he said this, and I think some of this is the most important part of this entire proposal.
To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States. That's what I want, is some extra work to do, but it's so important that I'm willing to do it, and we'll do it right, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on, and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man, very good man, and some others, and they'll be named over the next few days, and it'll be quite the board. Working, everybody wants to be on it now. I don't know if that had anything to do. They named me and everybody else wanted to be on it. I guess they figure, well, he's a soft touch. He'll be easy to deal with.
It's great as long as Trump is still there, but Trump isn't president for life, despite what the left is going to tell you. It's not. Question is this 4D chess? You're literally giving the Palestinians, you're giving Hamas a way out. What did Netanyahu say in response to this? Because he actually agreed to this deal.
But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done. We prefer the easy way, but it has to be done. All these goals must be achieved because we didn't fight this horrible fight, sacrifice the finest of our young men to have Hamas stay in Gaza and threaten us again and again and again with these horrific massacres.
Now, it's really big of Bibi to accept this, and he knows that Hamas is likely not to accept it either, because he's politically done in Israel if he accepts this deal. It's not going to be like the Abraham Accords, where everybody celebrates it. People in the rest of the world will celebrate it, but in Israel, they won't. In Israel, they want the total destruction of Hamas. And there will be very mixed feelings about this, especially people who lost loved ones, to go, we did all this and you're letting them leave? Where's the war tribunals? Where's the hangings for the heads of Hamas? So Bibi knows that Hamas is unlikely to actually accept this deal. And if they do accept this deal, they were likely to violate it in the future. So Art says over on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, he says, if the snake is still moving, keep hitting the snake. Yeah, that's about right. This one here from 206 says, carpet bomb Gaza. This is another one from Jeff and Kent. Hamas will never accept this deal. It's 4D, 5D chess. Unbelievable the rest of the world is so gullible. Yeah. I'll tell you, I don't think people realize what you're fighting against. What you're fighting against here, because it's already on our shores. Hamas has said they want to destroy not just Israel, but also America. Do you remember this clip I played for you last week of the mayor in Dearborn, Michigan, Rashida Tlaib territory, talking to a guy, a priest, by the way, who objected to the fact that a city street was being named after a Hezbollah supporter?
Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know, as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city, because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence.
That's what you're fighting against. Somebody who wants you gone. Somebody who supports Sharia law. That's what you're fighting against. And New York's about to elect one of these guys as mayor.